And we're live with another podcast. I'm Mike.
And I am Mitch.
Doing something a little different here. Instead of just talking about one thing or another, we're gonna talk about the Metropolitan today.
Yeah, so there's obviously, it's a bit of a dead period at the moment. There's nothing really happening, so decided maybe we'll just go division by division, just at least at the moment where we see these teams landing.
Yeah.
In terms of the standings.
Yeah, we'll talk about them a little bit, see if they've improved or whatever. But let's start out.
So yeah, we're starting with the Metro.
All right.
And I think we're gonna go reverse order here. And I'm curious, who do you have rounding out the bottom of the Metropolitan
I think that
division?
one we might have similar ones on.
Yeah.
Is the New York Islanders?
I actually have the Rangers.
Really?
I have.
So
the
you
New
think the
York
Rangers are
at
going to be
bottom.
the worst team in the Metro again?
I do. And now that you say the Islanders, yeah, I'm starting.
I just think the Islanders, because they didn't really improve. They lost Tavares. There's not much there.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised looking at the standings right now that the Islanders were only 3 points better than the Rangers with Tavares. So yeah, I that's definitely a possibility I could see.
Yeah. And
yeah, with obviously the Islanders.
I mean, I know
losing
Barzal
Tavares.
won Rookie of the Year or whatever, but still, that he has a huge role to fill now that Tavares is gone.
Well, yeah, and now he's getting all the defensive assignments that Tavares
had.
was getting previously, and now it's all on Matt Barzal, and he doesn't have a whole lot of help. I mean, Josh Bailey, Jordan Eberle, it's essentially it.
They don't really have any goaltending. I mean, they just signed Robin Leonard, but that's still nothing really. And it's only for a year, so they're still going to have that question.
Yeah, the Islanders I had at 7. I had the Rangers at 8, so I do see your point in terms of goaltending. I think Robin Leonard is a step up from last year.
Yeah.
But he's still, I mean, Robin Leonard is nothing to write home about, especially with the defense that the Islanders currently possess. Right. They actually only have 5 defensemen under contract right now, so they're going to have to do something there.
And just all the moves they've kind of made this offseason has kind of been questionable, so I don't really know how that's going to translate.
They have like 3 really good fourth lines now. They added a lot of guys who
there you go,
who trusted hockey men believe to be great fourth liners.
But at 7, I did have the Rangers. I just had the opposite of what you had.
Yeah, so for the Rangers, I had last because I don't know exactly what they have at the moment.
I know they drafted 2 pretty good guys in the first round with their back-to-back picks.
That was the Islanders. The Islanders had a good draft
team.
Yeah, with Wahlstrom and Dobson. Yeah. But for the Rangers this season, just looking at their top-end talent, they have Zuccarello, Kreider, and Zibanejad. Nemestikov.
They have Shattenkirk.
It's just...
the Ryan Corpse of Mark Stahl.
They're a team.
And they always have Henrik Lundqvist, but as he's kind of shown the past couple years, he's kind of
he's still a good goalie. His numbers are starting to trail off. I think this may be a year where you start to really see that decline in Lundqvist. Yeah. Along with the fact that in terms of depth, I mean, I don't see anything here. The Rangers only have 9 forwards under contract at the moment. And 3 of them are RFAs, those being Jimmy Vesey, Kevin Hayes, and Ryan Spooner. None of those guys are really anything to write home about. I mean, Pavel Buchnevich is a good young player. It's just there's a lot of there's a couple really good second line players and guys like Zibanejad and Kreider or Zuccarello.
But there's no one really to go up with Zuccarello to really help on that first line. And what they were so good on before is that they had good depth defensively. They didn't really have the offense to show, really. They were more defensive-oriented. And obviously McDonough and all of them got older. They all were traded and everything. So now they have to kind of restart a little.
Yeah, I think just with the way that the Rangers... And I do like the rebuilding method that they chose. I like the fact that the Rangers, at least if I was a Rangers fan, I'd be happy with the fact that they did come out and say, we're rebuilding, and they traded away guys like Ryan McDonough.
They fired their head coach.
Yeah, so they're starting over, and I think that was a good decision on their part, but it does leave
because for the longest time they're always making the trade like we need this guy for a year, we need this guy for a year because they felt they were so close.
Yeah, they had trades like Yandel and there was
St. Louis for that 1 year or whatever.
Right. But the Rangers, I just think they've kind of just they've kind of already torn the team apart to the point where like there's not a lot of high end pieces left just with all the trades they made. So I just don't see them.
Had 77 points last season.
Yeah,
lost in the Metro.
I do think that it is a battle between the two New York teams for that last spot. In terms of goaltending, like you said, I think the Rangers definitely have better goaltending than the Islanders do with Lundqvist, obviously. Defensively, they're both terrible.
But then when you think about it, it's like, who do they have goaltending wise? Because after 2021, 2022, Lundqvist is an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah, so
I don't really know their whole farm system or whatever. I don't know what goalie's coming up, but I feel like the next couple of seasons, we could probably see maybe a little more goaltending switch, or not really switch, but another face that they could put in once he's gone, because he's 36 now. Yeah,
so for Lundqvist at this, he's the one guy who they haven't moved, and I still don't. I understand that he's the face of the franchise, whatever. He's
been the face of the franchise,
but I just can't see why they haven't traded him, because they could still get a good amount for him. I know he's due $8.5 million for the next 3 years, so it is a rather big contract. But
if you're a contender, you kind of take that. If you're a contender who doesn't have a strong goalie or whatever.
Yeah, there are a couple teams that could really use it. The Flyers are one of them. Could really use a guy like Henrik Lundqvist in goal. And I really do think that they could get a good amount for him. And I think that's doing their team a disservice, because at the end of the day, no matter how well Henrik Lundqvist plays, this is not a playoff team. No. They admitted it themselves. So what's the point of keeping him if you could just get more assets for him? It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But I think the difference to me is I think that Josh Bailey and Matt Barzal are both better forwards than any. They're both definitely first line players. I think they're better than any individual offensive player that the Rangers have. Yeah, and that's why I have the Islanders ahead of the Rangers. But like I said, I could see go either way.
Right.
So moving up a little bit. So like we said, I had the Islanders 7, Rangers 8. You had it reversed.
Yeah.
For 6, who do you have at 6?
I have the Devils.
The Devils. I also have the Devils.
And I think the Devils just because I have a hard time believing Taylor Hall is going to have another year like this.
Yeah, obviously Taylor Hall's a great player, but he had never had a year to this level in the past. So it's something where there's a good chance that this I wouldn't say a flash in the pan, but he could definitely see a dip in production. Along with the fact that they just had so many career years out of players like Miles Wood and even rookies like Will Butcher. Had a great year defensively. He had 50 points, so he had a great rookie year.
Yeah.
So
and I know they signed Eddie Lack, but they also have Corey Schneider, who didn't do that great last year, but it's still Corey Schneider.
Yeah, so I mean,
so they still have some things. I just don't see how they can kind of repeat what they did this past season.
Yeah, I mean, the other argument, like you said, with Corey Schneider, if Corey Schneider goes back to earning the contract that he has $6 million due to him for the next 4 seasons. If he plays like the Corey Schneider that we've seen maybe 2-3 years ago, then this is a team who could definitely repeat the season they had last year and potentially even improve.
This is my thing. Their defense is, I don't really
terrible.
Know.
Yeah, that's the word.
They're terrible. They're older.
Yeah, I mean,
Green's 35, Lovejoy 34.
I always forget that Andy Green is their captain. Yeah, it's so strange to me. But I mean, Sammy Vatanen's definitely their best defenseman. Like you said, Green, Lovejoy, Severson. There's not a lot there.
No.
So yeah, like we just said, if Schneider can return to form, I think that can offset some of the negatives.
Backup-wise, it's okay because they have Kincaid, who played pretty well. He started the few games in the playoffs for some reason over Schneider, and then they just got Eddie Lack, who, I don't.
I think he's probably like an AHL guy who comes up in case of injury.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's either way if there's an injury for Schneider, because he does have an injury history that they want to have these two guys.
But like I was saying, if Schneider can provide the season that he's shown in the past, I think that can offset some of the down years that I think guys like Hall or Butcher or Wood, some of the guys that had career years, they're most likely going to have a bit of a drop off.
Yeah.
Not even in terms of how great of a player they are, but just because it was a career year. So I think that if Schneider can have that great year, then maybe they can offset it. But I don't think that that's going to happen. I think the Devils will fall off this year. I don't think they're a playoff team.
No, I don't either.
So who do you have at 5?
At 5, I have Carolina.
Because this is where I started to have my problem. 4 and 5, I had a very difficult time seeding. I have the Hurricanes also.
Yeah. But this is also kind of dependent on what we were talking about last time with Panarin, if they trade him or whatever.
Yeah, so for Carolina...
But if they keep him, then I think... I don't know. We'll get to them, but in a second or two.
For Carolina, I had it 5 only because... one, there's the Jeff Skinner situation where it's been a foregone conclusion the entire offseason that he was going to be traded, and it's still yet to happen. But there were rumors that the Blackhawks, with the salary cap that they, with that trade yesterday that they freed up, that they could potentially go after Skinner or Pacioretty. So with the Skinner situation being kind of iffy,
they just got Dougie Hamilton.
Yeah, which is an improvement, but I see Skinner most likely being gone, along with the fact that they signed Peter Mrazek. Their goaltending situation with Scott Darling,
that wasn't great last year either.
He was terrible last year. I would always
go back to Cam Moore, but they don't have that option anymore.
Yeah, so to me, it comes down to goaltending and the fact that they're going to lose a guy like Jeff Skinner, who's proven to be a great winger in the NHL. So to me, it goes back to that. I think they definitely improve with Dougie Hamilton defensively. It just goes back to that goaltending thing.
Right.
And yeah, offensively, they lost Elias Lindholm in that trade. So they could also just see a bit of a downslide in that.
Yeah.
They were already a team who I didn't see having much depth offensively, or even really a true first line center. A guy like a Sebastian Aho has played well.
And they just got Svechnikov or drafted him this past season.
Yeah, so Svechnikov will definitely be a big part of their future. As far as a rookie season, I'm not sure what to expect from him. I think he could definitely be a good middle six winger, at least in his first year. So there are some reasons to be optimistic in a guy like Svechnikov potentially having Sebastian Aho take the next step. But I just don't see it.
I don't either.
For them this season. I know a lot of people...
Because there's always the hope for Carolina every year that they're this close. This is going to be their year, and then nothing.
They're everyone's favorite team in September
and then
October.
Didn't they kind of blow up everything? Like they got rid of their coach or GM this past season. Yeah, so
with the new ownership, they got rid of Bill Peters, their head coach.
Yeah.
They're still looking for a general manager at the moment. So yeah, the Hurricanes have had a bunch of shakeups in terms of just front office and behind the bench, but they're a team who like I said, I struggled here because I do think that the Hurricanes are better than they were last year.
Yeah.
But I just don't see it being enough to get them to the next step of making the playoffs. And
especially in the Metro.
Yeah, so as the
Metro,
5 seed in the Metro, there is definitely a chance, which we both have them as. There's definitely a chance they could make the playoffs, but then you're talking about fighting with the most likely the Florida Panthers as the 4th seed in the Atlantic. I'm assuming we're both going to have them there when we talk about them later. So yeah, number 4. Who do you have at number 4?
4, I have Columbus.
I also have Columbus, and like we mentioned before. The whole Panarin situation is...
Whether he's traded now or even if he's traded at the deadline, I still think they could be a playoff team.
Yeah, I see it as, for Columbus, even just the situation being a cloud over them, I think it could be a big problem for them this season. Just knowing that their best player... There's a potential for him not to be returning the following season. There's a potential of him just not even really wanting to be there.
I mean, I know defensively they're good for the number 1 defense. Or
their top pair.
Yeah, top pair is great. And Bobrovsky, but that's the other question.
Yeah, Bobrovsky's also an unrestricted free agent. So, yeah, there's a lot of question marks in terms of this team's future over the next offseason. Yeah. So I think that could hang over the team's head. So, again, that's why I was debating between the two.
Yeah.
But if we just look at the roster, I think that Columbus is definitely a better team than the Hurricanes are. And I think
they're definitely not that team that took the Metro like 2 years ago. That team that like everyone had a career year and then nothing really happened, but there's not that team.
Yeah, so I mean, like you said, defensively, that Seth Jones, Zach Werenski pair is one of the best.
It's not really anything.
Yeah,
I mean, he didn't really lose anything not having Jack Johnson re-sign. So,
yeah, I mean, in terms of a first line, like they don't have much of a first line center at the moment.
They're just missing the offense for that ability to contend. They have the defense and the goaltender, but if the goaltender resigns, then they'll have those. But
I
for
think
a while, but
they're just missing a lot in terms.
They did sign Riley Nash, but even then, it's.
Yeah, I think offensively they have the depth, but they need that top end talent. And Panarin definitely is their top guy, and he's one of the best wingers in the NHL. But I just mean like center wise, Pierre-Luc Dubois, their top line center, and I mean he has a lot of potential. He's only 20 years old, but as a 20-year-old being your first liner who's not that's
a lot of responsibility.
Generational type talent, it's a lot of responsibility for him.
I mean, I know Hall had a great year, but Heischer was that top center, right?
Yeah, he was the top center for the Devils, and and it's not something that could keep them from making the playoffs. It's just something where I don't know if I trust them being a contender or hanging with some of the better teams in the division. So, in terms of that top-end talent offensively, I think that's where they have a need. And obviously with Panarin potentially leaving, it could be an even bigger hole. Defensively, they have that great top pair, like we said.
Yeah.
But in terms of depth defensively, they don't have a whole hell of a lot of it. But then Sergei Bobrovsky, if he has a career year again, if he's a Vezina winner.
Yeah, Vezina winner again,
then they could be anywhere in the division.
But then you could also say that about Lundqvist or Carey Price. Someone like if they have.
Yeah, I mean for Lundqvist, I don't know if he really has that potential
that's not really
anymore.
The same thing, but just saying if there's a goalie that has that potential.
Those types of goalies can definitely take their team to a higher level than they really are, put them in a spot in the standings that the rest of the team doesn't really earn. And Sergei Bobrovsky is definitely someone who could do that. So who do you have as the number 3 team?
I have the Flyers at number 3.
I also have the Flyers at number 3.
They obviously improved from their adding James Van Riemsdyk.
Yes.
They now have a good top 6. A better top 6 than last year.
Yes.
The question being third line center, who's thrown in there, how the goaltendings play out, because that's always a big question in Philadelphia. That's obviously the question with Elliott and Neuvirth.
Yeah, so I mean, like you said, adding James Van Riemsdyk really shores up the top 6. They needed a scoring winger, and I think he's obviously someone who could provide that, someone who scored 36 goals last season. I think in terms of them versus Columbus, because I think that's really... I think the top 2 are pretty well set. I think anyone listening to this knew who the top 2 were going to be in Pittsburgh and Washington in whatever order. So them and Columbus, I think what separates the two is that top-end talent the Flyers have.
They have a better defense. They have a little more better defense than Columbus does. They have better depth-wise, at least top 6-wise. And then... bottom 6 is where we kind of question it more. Yeah, I mean,
the Blue Jackets obviously added Riley Nash to be the third-line center. He was someone who people thought maybe the Flyers would target. Right. I wasn't the biggest fan, but he's probably a better option than a Scott Lawton, who appears to be who the Flyers will have.
Jordan Wheel
has been mentioned. I mean, for the Flyers in that third-line spot, third-line center spot, it could even be a guy like Morgan Frost or Mikhail Vorobiev. It just depends on how training camp shakes out. So past that, like you said, defensively, they're definitely improved from last season also.
Stenheim should make the team this time. He should be in the lineup. Obviously, the signing of Folan helps that way, I think. Yeah, I kind of showed up who's going to be playing. He'd be the 7th guy, hopefully.
Yeah,
Axel tends to play those guys.
Yeah. So, defensively, that first pair, if it continues...
I don't think they're a team that can contend yet, but I do think they're number 3 in the Metro.
Yeah, I think at this point in time, I still think as the question, like you said, in Philadelphia is always goaltending. I don't think that between the pipes, the Flyers have enough at the moment to consider themselves contenders. No. Brian Elliott, Michael Neuvirth, like we said, at the third spot, I think that's where most people are putting the Flyers at the moment after this offseason.
At that point, you could say this is definitely where Columbus has the edge with Bobrovsky.
Yeah, but if we put the Flyers at the third spot or even the fourth spot, the teams that they're most likely to play are the Washington Capitals or the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah.
I do not believe that they will be able to beat either of those teams.
They have a better chance with Washington, I would say, but Pittsburgh, we saw what happened last.
Yeah, I don't think they have a chance with either of these goalies starting. So I do think it's something that they still need to address. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to happen.
They both have injury histories. Mm-hmm. Hackstall's been known to run them until they're hurt.
Exactly. So I think that there is definitely some room for improvement in terms of goaltending.
You still don't know what you have in Hart yet, but that's down the road.
Yeah, so in terms of Columbus potentially passing the Flyers, like you just said a couple minutes ago, Sergei Bobrovsky versus Flyers goaltending it's obviously a big plus for Columbus. So in terms of that, the Blue Jackets could definitely, with Bobrovsky with another Vezina trophy type year, which he's shown he's able to do, they could pass the Flyers and could be in that third spot. So for the Flyers, I think I'm pretty well set in where they're going to be. I think they're going to be around the same where they were last year, maybe even hit 100 points.
Maybe.
I think their placing here really does depend on a team like Columbus and whether or not those guys play at the level that they have shown in the past.
What helps is that their younger guys who were hurt last year are going to have a healthy offseason.
Exactly, yeah. Nolan Patrick.
And if you have, because now it seems that they're not going to trade Simmons, that now that they're going to have Simmons, a healthy Simmons throughout the year is going to be better than the hurt Simmons that was last year.
Yeah, but then also you have to look at it in terms of how we looked at the New Jersey Devils. Claude Giroux, Jakub Voracek had career years, so there is a bit of an expectation here that they're probably going to drop a little bit of production.
Had a career too.
Exactly. So yeah, those guys, there's a good chance that there would be maybe a little bit of a drop in production, but I do think that in terms of the young guys getting better,
and it should still remain the same with Giroux on the wing and Couturier centering that first line, because that first line was the best the Flyers threw out there last year.
Yeah, I mean, the two of them had career years together. I just don't really see the logic in splitting them up. No. I don't think it really...
It helped Konechny immensely, production-wise and everything.
Yeah, it's. I just don't see really the logic in splitting them up when they just produce so well together.
Yeah.
We know it works, so why fuck with it? I just don't see any reason.
It's like trying to moving with Ghost and Provorov.
Mm-hmm. So I think we'll move on.
Yeah.
We'll move on here to the top two. So who did you have at number 2?
I had the Capitals at number 2.
I had the Penguins at number 2. So give me your reasoning for the Capitals here.
I just think the Capitals, it's just because they don't really have the depth. I know they won and everything. They still don't have that depth. And Ovechkin played out of his mind in the playoffs and everything, and that really helped them to win. Don't see that happening again.
Yeah, you don't see it carrying over.
No. I still see him doing what he always does every year, but I don't see it being that way where he helps or he has that number 1.
Yeah, I think in terms of the Capitals, I have the number 1. I just see them as a team that in terms of, they're just the exact same team as last year. They essentially just re-upped everyone. They got Carlson on the long-term deal. Even smaller guys like Devontae Smith-Pelly, they re-signed. They lost Jay Beagle, but in my opinion, it's addition by subtraction.
Yeah, they lost. Oh yeah, they got Smith-Pelly.
So I mean, all their great players from last season are returning.
They're still there, but still, it's kind of the question that came into last year, coming in. I mean, they don't really have the cap issue like they did last year, but they obviously have a great top pair with Ovechkin and Kuznetsov.
Yeah,
I mean, he's really good, Carlson, but defensively, they still don't have very much.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think there's some addition by subtraction, just losing Brooks Orpik, but I think Dmitry Orlov is a good second pair defenseman. I think Michael Kempny's kind of the same. Past that, Niskanen, Juice, and Bowie, they're just not. There's just not a lot there.
Yeah,
I agree with you there in terms of defensive depth. But I think that they're a team that just has an elite top 6.
Yeah.
I think that obviously John Carlson's a great defenseman. Him and Orlov being paired together, it's a great top pair.
Right.
So I just think they have too much talent not to again
That's
be that regular season champion they always are. And then this isn't me saying that I think the Penguins are bad in any way.
No.
Those are obviously two juggernauts going up against each other in the regular season for the top spot. I don't think either of them really care who wins.
Yeah.
But
and at the end of the day, near the end of the season, they kind of play towards who they prefer to play in.
Yeah,
the playoffs.
But for me, Pittsburgh, I have at number 2 because I don't think that they have the defensive talent that the Capitals have in terms of just top end. I mean, Chris Letang had a terrible year last year. Obviously he's someone who could turn it around. He's obviously had a much better career than what he showed last year, but even past that, I mean, Justin Schultz.
Jack Johnson was the best acquisition for their defense.
Not a good. They added him for $3.25 a year for 5 years. I really didn't like their offseason that they had.
No, but at the same time, they never had a great defense for the 2 Stanley Cups they won either.
That is true, but they had
even last year they didn't even have Letang.
Yeah, the last year they won. The last Stanley Cup they won, they did not have Chris Letang playing.
But at the same time, they both had Matt Murray and Fleury. But I think Murray, who had a down year this past year, taking on the whole role by himself, it's going to be different this year. I think he's probably going to improve a little bit on that. And it's Crosby and Kessel and Malkin.
Again, I mean, Sidney Crosby hasn't had one of those great 100-point seasons in the past couple of years, so maybe he just says, you know what, this regular season I'm just going to destroy everyone and just turn on that light, and there's a very good chance that he could play. He's still the best player in the league
right now, but still, I know they lost Sheary or whatever to Buffalo, but that's not the biggest.
It was more of a cap dump. I just see them. I think those two teams are going to be very close in terms of the standings, but I look at how last year the standings shook out with the Capitals being 5 points ahead, which is a decent amount.
Yeah.
And just thinking of who improved more.
Right.
And I think that the Capitals pretty much stayed the same. They have a couple young guys who I think will get better, like Jakub Vrana. And I look at the Penguins, and I think they got worse because with the addition of a guy like Jack Johnson, who I assume is probably going to get, with just the money he's getting paid, that he's probably going to get a decent amount of ice time.
With Chris Letang. Yeah. Unless you don't want to move Mata.
But, I mean, an argument that you could make in favor of the Penguins is the fact that Matt Murray did not play very well this past season, and at 24 years old.
And he was hurt.
Yeah, so he's shown that he has a much higher ability than what he played at last season, and they were still a 100-point team. So
I still think at some point they're probably going to start falling off from how great they have been, but I don't think it's going to happen just yet.
Yeah, I think these are definitely the top two teams. I would be very surprised if the Flyers or Blue Jackets or anyone overtook either of them for the top two spots.
The Flyers can't even beat the Penguins at the moment.
Yeah, so
they lost every time they faced them in the season, and then they're barely able to make it to Game 6.
Yeah, so I think in terms of the top two, I think that's definitely what's going to happen.
It's more thinking depth-wise, too, because both top sixes are great. Defensively, Washington's better, and goaltending, it's about the same. So it really is just a matter of how they perform, or how their bottom sixes perform.
Yeah, I think if you look at it in terms of, if we do look at depth-wise, I think the Penguins are probably better. I mean, Derek Brassard is a better third-line center than anything. I think that like Lars Eller, I think that I'd much rather have Derek Brassard than Lars Eller as my third-line center.
Or
But then you go defensively, like we said, in terms of just top end and depth in general, I think Capitals are better. Goaltending-wise, like you called it a wash. I'd rather Holtby at the moment.
Yeah.
I give that to the Capitals, although I think there is an argument to be made there.
Yeah.
So I give a slight edge to the Capitals. I really wouldn't be surprised either way.
I mean, their core players are hitting into their 30s now, and players in their 30s aren't what they were before.
Yeah, so there could be a bit of a downswell.
Yeah.
So yeah,
at some point.
And another thing to add here, just in terms of the Penguins, is they have been rumored to potentially trade for Jeff Skinner.
Yeah.
So if that addition's made, then I would change mine and have the Penguins as number 1 here. But at the moment, that's
a team that
that's
can
how
convince someone to go there too, just because look at us, we just won and everything.
Yeah, we won back-to-back Stanley Cups just a couple of years ago. So
you could easily just throw him with Crosby if he wanted to.
If they actually wanted to give him a good winger, which they have yet to show the willingness to do with any head coach that they've had.
Crosby just makes every other winger look better than they actually are.
Yeah, so I think we're done here with the Metro. Next time we're going to move to the Atlantic Division and finish up the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, that one's going to be... that's the bottom part that's going to be a little harder, but still.
Yeah, I think we'll probably have a few differences there, a few more arguments there in terms of the bottom half of that division. But until then, we will see you next time.